please understand, folks, there are corporate interests worldwide that are anti-free market that are using global crises to bring in total control. And they work with collaborators in every nation state to do this. We have the communist Chinese, the Pope, the radical jihadis in Saudi Arabia, their leadership, all saying we can't have Donald Trump. And now Donald Trump has come out with a powerful speech that he just gave in D.C. on foreign affairs that we've covered, that we played part of it. I've read the transcript. Very, very powerful. He just swept 5 states. Ted Cruz is technically disqualified. They're talking about changing the rules again. They've got other Republican leadership coming out saying we'll start a third party. Joining us till about 40 after is Roger Stone, the consummate patriot, Trump insider. What an incredible guy. He's written a best-selling book now exposing the Bushes and their crime syndicate, their drug dealing, the CIA, a book exposing the same system with the Clintons. I've talked to top experts that have written books on the subject. They say Stone got info no one ever knew. It's just incredible. Both those books, by the way, available at InfoWarsStore.com or StoneZone.com. And it's so important to support people that are telling the truth. This is the confidant of Trump more than 40 years, his wingman. And he joins us to break down what's happening. Such a history. Austria just had patriot nationalist that they're calling extreme right-wing. They call Trump that. He's almost too liberal for me in some cases. They call him super right-wing. The other group isn't right-wing. It's patriot. It's nationalist. It's common sense. Like, hey, I want hot coffee and in the morning and a warm bed. I mean, it's... They try to take reality and invert it like it's dirty, but Trump just dominated. He's come out and said Hillary'd be 5 points if she was a man. Well, yeah, like Jeb Bush was 5 points. They say, oh, that's sexist. They are in panic mode. This is so exciting, so historical. I don't even know what to say at this point. Let's go to Roger Stone. He'll tell us where he is. He's always all over the U.S., working like 18 hours a day. I mean, I get text messages from this guy at 6 a.m. and 3 a.m. at night. I tell you, Trump ought to give this guy a medal. Roger Stone, great to have you on, my friend. It is just so exciting what's happened. I'm going to try to shut up till 33 after when we take a few calls with their questions at 800-259-9231. First-time callers, quick question for Roger Stone, 800-259-9231. But until then, sir, congratulations on your work. Congratulations to Donald Trump. Congratulations to the American people. He just gains momentum. So many questions, but I'm just going to let you take the helm, sir.
Well, first of all, Donald Trump deserves enormous credit for the big win last night. And it was sweeping, breaking more than 50% in every state. It demonstrates why I think Trump is, in fact, the candidate the Democrats are afraid of, because he runs well in the industrial Northeast and the Middle West, and those states that have been ravaged by NAFTA and now that would be ravaged by TPP. And Ted Cruz's expedited trade globalist deal, TPA. So it was a big, big night for Donald Trump. It was also a big night for his team. They are living off the land. They're running a true grassroots campaign. The Pennsylvania situation is particularly interesting because you had really 2 primaries, a delegate primary and a preferential primary. Trump ran away with the preferential primary, but in order to vote for the Trump delegates, you had to know who the delegates were. So a massive education project there. 2 top political operatives, David Urban and Jim Schultz, along respected federal and state Republican operatives, kind of parachuted in there at the last minute and worked with the local Trump people who were very enthusiastic to build a very solid ground game, a true grassroots operation. Very impressive. So it shows again that the Northeast, like the Midwest, is Trump country.
So is the South. I mean, people just love Trump. And I've got to interrupt you. Looking at the front of DrudgeReport.com, Roger, he looks so presidential in that foreign policy speech. I mean, wow. If people wanted to be impressed with him being focused, that was it. I want that guy to represent me.
Well, and it was the perfect tone. I mean, this speech really defined Trump's foreign policy. Now you can see that Richard Haas of the Council on Foreign Relations has had no effect whatsoever on his thinking. Trump is a bold nationalist. He is for American sovereignty. He's for the restoration of American power. He's against some globalist scheme. And most importantly, he is most definitely not a neocon. He's a non-interventionist. That's not an isolationist. But he quotes John Quincy Adams in his speech. saying we shouldn't go looking for trouble around the world. Yeah. That's the guy I want.
If I liked Trump before, I'm in love now. Roger, what is it like for you as one of his chief? This is history happening, an epic battle with the collectivists and the communist Chinese and the jihadis telling us we can't have Trump and the sickening mentally ill left. I mean, this is incredible.
It's really something I have never seen before in American politics. And Trump has said this a number of times. It's not about him. It's about a revolution. It's about a last best chance to save the country. So a big contest with Indiana coming up. This is going to be pivotal. This is Ted Cruz's last hurrah. But some breaking news. Today at 4 o'clock Eastern, Ted Cruz will announce that Carly Fiorina will be his running mate for vice president.
Wait, has that been announced, or are you giving us inside baseball?
It is known to those of us who are professional.
Okay, so we're going to run with the headline. Roger Stone, Cruz will announce Fiorina as running mate at 4 o'clock.
That is what I predict. Now, let's go through that for a moment.
Go ahead.
She's John McCain's chief issue advisor. She, as the head of executive at Hewlett-Packard, let me just put it this way, layoffs, outsourcing, golden parachute. She's Mitt Romney in heels. She tried this in California. She was ignominiously defeated when those very arguments were made. She is a rock-ribbed member of the establishment. I like the way she cuffs Hillary Clinton around, but she's not doing that for her country or her party. She's doing it for herself. So another globalist, another international.
Yeah, she's somebody that comes and sells off Hewlett-Packard and downsizes it, and they call her a genius in the mainstream media.
Well, and not only that, but there's very strong evidence that she broke the Iranian sanction rules doing business in that part of the world. So this is the last woman that you want as.
Oh, I forgot she's been on the payroll of the Iranians.
Yeah, no, this is a horrific choice by Ted Cruz. Now, there's every possibility, Alex, you have so much reach and influence that Ted Cruz will hear about this and change his mind before 4 o'clock, but I rather doubt it.
Wow. Okay, please continue. Roger Stone, this is incredible. Please continue.
Well, Indiana will be pivotal. I don't see Carly Fiorina giving Ted Cruz any bump there. I mean, this is, I guess Cruz thinks this is Reagan-esque, meaning it's like when Ronald Reagan picked Dick Schweiker, who turned out to be a very fine man. And by the way, one of the most important members of Congress, skeptical about the Warren Commission and skeptical about the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. And a free thinker, a solid Second Amendment man, ironically, but a liberal Republican on social issues. I got to know he and his wife, Claire, who you may know was once Miss Claire on Romper Room, very, very fine people, later served in Ronald Reagan's cabinet. But this is not Dick Schweiker. This is someone who has the globalist stamp. And I don't see, other than her gender, what she brings to a ticket. I guess what Cruz is saying is that he couldn't beat Hillary alone. Maybe I could beat her with this woman on the ticket.
Sure, now he's going to pull what Trump said. I mean, I'd love to have a woman I believed in, like a Michelle Bachmann would be great, or somebody like the former governor of Alaska, Sarah Palin, who are patriots. I mean, it's not that we're against women. It's true. Hillary can hardly talk. She's got all this corruption. She's about to probably be indicted. All this stuff's going on, and Trump says, listen, if she was a man, she'd be 5%, and they say he's anti-woman. No, he told the truth. Your take on his statement?
No, I think it's exactly why people love Donald Trump, because he's blunt. He tells you what he really thinks, and it's the God's honest truth. Look, her entire campaign is predicated on the premise that she will get a disproportionate number of votes among women. And I say to you, Alex, when women learn of her real abuse of women, the way she has bullied and intimidated and threatened Bill's sexual assault victims, his serial...
This came over. By the way, let me stop you right there. That's why you're banned on CNN, MSNBC, and everywhere else. That's why you're banned, is because they're so scared they'll bring that up. Stay right there. Roger Stone, StoneZone.com. We're back in 4 minutes. We're trying to reconnect with him on Skype, StoneZone.com. I'm Alex Jones of Infowars.com. This is the Infowar. This is the tip of the spear. The system is so scared of Donald Trump. What are the next big pitfalls, Roger Stone? What else do you expect them to pull? What are they going to do now? I mean, he's going to get, they're projecting, as you predicted, the 1,238 or 37. They've now got Republican chiefs out. We'll run with a third party, or we'll ignore that. But I think more and more, even as Newt Gingrich said, look, you can't ignore this. It's going to blow up in your face if you try to steal the election from Trump. What does your gut tell you, Roger Stone?
Well, the Cruz operatives are still talking about going into the Rules Committee and passing a rule that would knock out some of Donald Trump's delegates. And then that question comes to the convention floor prior to the first ballot in the approval or disapproval of the proposed rules. This is why I've been talking about the so-called Trojan horse delegates. While Donald Trump may have a majority for president on the first ballot, I think the anti-Trump forces will have a majority on the floor on questions of rules and credentials. There's any number of ways to steal this nomination by an adversarial report from either one of those committees that used trickery to unseat validly elected Trump delegates. So I still think that that is the establishment game plan. That's why we started StopTheSteal.org. The rally and march, which is now scheduled for July 18th. We have received our permit from the city of Cleveland. We have a number of co-sponsors beyond Stop the Steal, including Citizens for Trump, Women for Trump, Bikers for Trump, Veterans for Trump, and we will walk.org. So the list of co-sponsors for the rally, a peaceful, nonviolent rally where the object is numbers. Let us show the Republican establishment our grassroots.
Everybody's got a book to be there now. This is history. I'm going to be there, be speaking. Roger Stone, you need to be part of this, folks. So stand up for free speech, for the voting, for all of it. And expanding on this, you've always got big breaking news. You've always got inside baseball tidbits. Give us a bone. What's coming up in the next few days, the next few weeks? What else should we be watching for?
Well, Indiana is crucial. Even in my most conservative count, and I'm keeping my own kind of private count, I currently have Donald Trump worst case at 1250. So, and I know that the Republican National Chairman, who I think is kind of playing a double game where he is conciliatory to Trump and his campaign people in private, but he is working behind the scenes against us. That's my opinion, by the way, not the official opinion of anyone else. But I do think that there is, a need to show the politicians inside the hall what they will be losing, the energy and the diversity that they will be losing if they euchre this nomination away from Donald Trump.
So you're basically, and others, warning them that, listen, Trump is going to win. He can destroy Hillary. What are you doing? You're going to destroy yourself. Don't do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, look, I have suggested that we go to the delegate hotels with copies of the pledge. People from Pennsylvania go to the Pennsylvania Delegate Hotel, track down your elected representatives and ask them to take the pledge. It's voluntary. They don't need to take it. They don't have to take it. But if they don't, then the media can ask them why the votes of the people in Pennsylvania.
We're simply canvassing who's going to represent the people and who's going to steal it. First Amendment, right of association, and that's why all these big channels are throwing hissy fits claiming that you're a terrorist.
Yeah, no, it's an absurdity. It's a classic example of a mainstream media mugging, where CNN took a bite out of context. If they played my entire thought, even, they would have seen that I renounce violence. I'm a veteran of the 1968 Nixon campaign. I saw what violence did to Hubert Humphrey's campaign, and therefore, I think the greater
You've never promoted it. You've never promoted it, and it's pure horse manure. It's the left running around beating people up and shooting cops in the back of the head.
Well, and the irony here, of course, is that those who are coming to Cleveland for violence are the paid agitators from MoveOn.org and Black Lives Matter and other lefty Clinton-supporting Soros-funded groups. They're there to provoke violence, to incite violence, and then the mainstream media will falsely blame that violence.
That's right. Stay there. Let's talk about the Soros false flag straight ahead and take phone calls with Roger Stone on the road joining us. Trump's been winning the votes, obviously, but we're defeating the entire machine, the entire corrupt world that's fighting against the true populist We're already seeing populism spread all over Europe. Austria just went to a populist. They're panicking. Who says evil always has to win? Who says we can't start to turn the tide? The mainstream media has a 6% approval rating in the Associated Press poll. They're dead. They're zombies. We're just telling them they're dead politically. Roger Stone's our guest. Roger, you know, the big question I've got, one big one I forgot to get to, and I hope you can really give us, again, the inside scoop on this. I know you like to stay focused on the campaign, focused on our freedoms. You don't like to get into what's happening inside the campaign, even if you disagree with some of the people involved. As we've talked privately, I'm not going to get into it, but will you please, because a third of the media's coverage is about what's happening on the Trump campaign, and your former business partner, you know, your good friend, you know, coming in and really, I think, helping the situation. The current head that was kind of sidelined for a while, but we're told he's been brought back. Mainstream media is saying there's a fight inside, and Trump has kind of, you know, told Paul and others, hey, back off. You don't run the show. What's true? What isn't? There's a Politico article. Trump rejects new advisor's push to make him presidential. Frustrated with Manafort, the GOP frontrunner shifts some power back to campaign manager Lewandowski. All I know is it's always about Lewandowski, and he makes it about himself. I'm not against Lewandowski, but please just be honest with us. I know you don't like to infight, but this is already an issue. I mean, sometimes I hear more about Lewandowski from Lewandowski than I hear about Trump. That doesn't sound good, so please address this.
Yeah, I think this kind of backbiting really doesn't serve Donald Trump or the campaign well. I mean, Alex, in 1979, I was recruited by John Sears to work for Ronald Reagan. And I really liked and respected John Sears, who was Reagan's first campaign manager. After the New Hampshire primary, on the eve of the primary, actually, Governor Reagan decided to fire John Sears and hire Bill Casey as his new campaign manager. Now, I had my reservations about Casey, but it occurred to me that I worked for Ronald Reagan, and my job was to elect Ronald Reagan, and my job was to coordinate with whoever Ronald Reagan chose. I think in Paul Manafort, Donald Trump has chosen a superb professional, someone who has actually elected presidents, both here and abroad. The mainstream media, the New York Times, is now attacking him for his business dealings. He hasn't been a lobbyist for 30 years, by the way. But that's because they are panicked about Trump's success, and they see a non-amateur at the helm of their convention operation, where they thought they were going to roll the Trump people as a bunch of naive rubes who had never been to
Instead, you and Manafort on record helped get Reagan in and defeat the last time they tried a coup. That's why they're so upset.
Yeah, so look, I think that these kind of process stories are meaningless. Paul Manafort, because I've known him for, most of my adult life, he has his nose down focusing on winning delegates, focusing on trying to take a political...
Not running around talking about how he wasn't in a fight with a woman.
Look, this isn't about Louis Korendowski, and it's not about Paul Manafort, it's not about Roger Stone, and it's not about Alex Jones. It's about the only man who can make this country great again, the only person with the stature and the name ID and the forum and the gut and, frankly, the courage to take on the political establishment and turn this country around.
And he's doing it, and they can't stand it. So, I mean, obviously Trump's running the campaign, but people keep asking, is Lewandowski in? Is he out? I mean, people want to know.
It is my understanding that he will continue to work on the campaign and continue to retain his current title. No one person can run an entire presidential campaign and a convention. There's plenty of work.
Sure, I get it. You probably have 20 people. So let me ask you this, then we'll move on to a few calls and let you go. I know you're a busy man. Again, Roger Stone, consummate Trump confidant, insider, on with us today. Looking at this, I think Trump's really completely turned the tide. I think he's dominating. I see it. I see them panicking. Is that an accurate statement?
Well, let's just look at the trajectory of the campaign just a few weeks ago. He lost Wisconsin. He then lost North Dakota. He got shut out in Colorado. And about the same time, we learned about the stealing in Louisiana, where Trump won the primary with almost 40% of the vote, but did not even get close to 40% of the delegates. Then they started stealing delegates next door in Georgia. So that was our trajectory. Now look at where we are today. An incredible victory in New York, a smashing victory where real grassroots, particularly upstate, real pros like Carl Palladino and John Haggerty and Michael Caputo. These guys know what they're doing. They're not amateurs, and they had a very, very good candidate. You saw last night in the sweep of the northeastern United States, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Trump breaking 50 in all these states. What happened to the notion that Trump had a ceiling that he couldn't get beyond?
They kept saying, as we narrow, he's going to be done. No, as it narrows, he rises. Yeah,
and what's interesting, of course, is that before you could say, well, when you don't have a multi-candidate field, he's done, he's cooked. Well, now we really don't have a multi-candidate field because John Kasich is not a real candidate. He is the Soros running dog.
Yeah, what about those two combining forces? Then I got to take a few calls because I promised. But
sure.
What about those two joining forces?
Well, this is not unprecedented, Alex. In 1968, believe it or not, Governor Ronald Reagan and Governor Nelson Rockefeller had a back-channel discussion and were working together to try to block former Vice President Richard Nixon's comeback on the first ballot. It did not work, but it is not unprecedented. But let's be very clear. Ted Cruz is now dealing with the most left-wing candidate in the race, a guy propped up by George Soros, a guy who supported NAFTA, a guy who supported the expansion of Obamacare, a governor who supports Common Cause. So Cruz really shows his stripes if he's prepared to get in bed with John Kasich, unless, of course, Ted Cruz is a globalist just like Kasich, who talks a good game, but on the big issues facing us, trade, immigration, and so on, he's a globalist. He is part of the international clique.
There's no doubt the Bush is running his campaign, backing him. He was a sleeper the whole time. A few quick calls, and Mr. Stone's going to leave us. Let's go to Rob. Rob in New Jersey. You're on the air worldwide. Go ahead, Rob.
Yes, I'm Alex, and thank you for taking my call.
Yes,
I just have a question for Mr. Stone concerning the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations. I know that you both are very well aware of what's going on. You know that Trump did meet with Paul Haas.
It's Richard Haas. Yeah, we've talked all about
Richard Haas, excuse me. Right. And evidently, he had a meeting with him. What is your opinion if you think that the elite and the establishment are going to come with a clampdown on Trump and say, look, we're going to give you this nomination, but we're going to place one of our people, one of our operatives, as the vice president?
Sure, okay, I get your question. What about this being a replay of the 1980 with George Herbert Walker Bush? I mean, I think the answer is Trump's already said no to Haas, and Haas came out and attacked him a week after they talked. Stone?
Yeah, I mean, look, today's speech shows that the Council on Foreign Relations has no influence on Donald Trump. He remains a Reaganite in terms of his foreign policy views. He's a hardliner. He is, but he's not a neocon. He doesn't want to rush us off to war in places that it
peace through strength. He's not going to start wars, but he's not going to put up with any BS.
So a real basic Reagan-Eisenhower doctrine: peace through strength. He had lunch with Richard Haas, frankly, because Joe Scarborough kept badgering him to do it. So he had lunch with the guy. He was actually not fully aware of Haas's neocon credentials, a cheerleader for the war in Iraq. And today tells you that Trump is his own man.
Haas came out and attacked him a week after. That tells everything I need to know.
Well, look, it's a desperate gambit. He needed to throw a Hail Mary pass of some kind because he's finished. He cannot mathematically catch Donald Trump on the first ballot. It's not going to happen. And he's worried about his new best friends, Neil and Jeb Bush, and Mitt Romney and Paul Singer and the other establishment insiders dumping him on a second ballot to move to someone that they prefer, a Paul Ryan, or maybe Jeb himself. So it is interesting that only days after I came out and suggested a loyalty pledge, a voluntary loyalty pledge that Trump supporters could ask Trump delegates to take, Ted Cruz came out with a loyalty pledge for his delegate. That tells me that he's worried that Jeb and Neil are going to dump him on the second ballot.
Absolutely.
And then even more disturbing, Alex, to be honest with you, a week ago, I believe on this show, I referred to the California primary as the big enchilada.
You did, yes.
Only days later, Ted Cruz refers to the California primary as the big enchilada.
He's obsessed with you. All he does is talk about you.
Senator, get your own shtick. Stop using my material.
It is true that when I see him on TV or radio, it's like he takes what you say and he twists it. But I guess with a lot of sociopaths like Glenn Beck and him, that's why I was asked why he uses my information but twisted. They say, listen, sociopaths don't have any original thought, especially psychopaths, so they just steal something. Is that what you're getting to?
Yeah, in essence, I mean, look, the guy is he has made all of these nasty personal attacks against me, but he's a confection. He is a Harvard, Princeton, Wall Street funded, oil and gas industry funded insider.
He's smart but not sincere, and so he steals from a sincere person like you, just like Beck steals from I. Let's talk to Adrian in Missouri. Our guest has got to go in a few minutes. Adrian in Missouri, you're on the air with Roger Stone of StoneZone.com.
Hi, yes. Hi, Alice. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
Mr. Stone, we already know that the establishment is willing to pull out all stops just to try to stop Trump from getting the nomination or maybe even the presidency. I was thinking maybe, do you think that they will try to make some type of fake attempt on Obama's life just so they can try to postpone the election?
Good point.
You know,
yeah, they can pull any stunt. I mean, they can crash economies to stop Trump. They've said that they'll never put up with it. These are arrogant kleptocrats. Yeah, what type of stunts haunt you in the middle of the night that they might pull, Stone?
Well, look, I think they're capable of anything, including martial law. The establishment is petrified that the Trump wave is coming, and they see no way to stop it. I pray for him every night. I think it is very brave of him to continue to campaign in public. We can't even begin to imagine how many death threats he must be getting. So I salute his courage and his bravery to go out there and spearhead this movement for reform. At the same time, you see, shills like Mark Levin and Glenn Beck being paid millions of dollars to continue to promote Ted Cruz.
As their ratings plunge, they are destroying themselves because their grassroots audience is saying no.
Yeah, so, I mean, Mark Levin does the shady backroom book deal where he sells books at inflated prices to a Cruz patron, and they purchase his voice. In the old days, they would call this payola. I've written this for the Daily Caller, and Levin calls the Daily Caller an obscure website. No, it's a respected conservative website. So,
Tucker Carlson's a Fox pundit, everybody knows. The Daily Caller is amazingly respected. They're incredibly accurate.
This is part of the Cruz obsession. I think the man lays awake at night worrying about what I'm going to do next. And you know what, Alex? He should. He should worry about that.
Absolutely. So you lay awake at night thinking how sad you are for him. He lay awake at night. Adrian, great question. In closing, Mr. Stone, we got more callers. I know you've got to go. Just thank you for all your hard work for this country and what you're doing. And obviously, this will become a big national issue. So please flesh it out for a minute or two. You're saying they could do anything to try to stop Trump. I agree. They've said they'll do anything, including stealing elections, canceling the popular vote. Hillary's doing it to Bernie Sanders. I see polls out where a third of them are saying they'll go with Trump. Double the number of African Americans that went for Romney are saying they'll go and are going in primaries for Trump. Trump is the majority of Hispanic voters in primaries. So this is a dream. It's populism that unites us all. We talk about martial law. Yeah, economic emergency, a new war, some type of October surprise. Not that Obama's running, but running for the establishment. What type of false flags or October surprises in your, deep brain, they call the IBM computer Deep Blue, and the deep stone, being inside all this, watching it, sitting at the foot of Richard Nixon, what would you be doing if you were them?
Well, let me say this, Alex. I'm not certain, but if I was certain, I wouldn't admit it. And therefore, I'm going to duck your question and talk about the importance of what we're trying to do in Cleveland. I ask everybody who supports Donald Trump, who supports this march to change America, to go to stopthesteal.org and get the details. This is a peaceful, nonviolent rally. If you can't make it to Cleveland, we understand, but make a small contribution or even a large contribution to help us pay for buses and housing and the marshals.
And put up stopthesteal.org flyers that you've got all over the country. Let's get aggressive. But listen, I know you've never dodged a question, but you're the one that brought up the martial law point. I'm seriously, what type of civil emergency, what type of October surprise do you think anybody could pull? I mean, saying they'll steal the election from him is pretty damn big, but what else?
Well, they could stage an international incident in which everybody has to rally around the president and then use that as a pretext to cancel the election. I also have, as you know, very deep concerns about these computerized voter machines that are going to be in the key states like Michigan and Ohio and New York and Pennsylvania, where Donald Trump and only Donald Trump is competitive. So we've got a lot of mountains to climb. But as Nelson Rockefeller found out on his way to the presidency, you've got to get nominated for president first. I really think this is historic. Donald Trump is going to get 1,237 votes on the first ballot. There will be no second ballot. That is my bold prediction.
And you notice that's what Trump says. Let me throw this at you again. I'm not sure which part of that big question you, quote, dodged, but to be specific, you've said it, that you wouldn't be surprised anything past martial law. We know the Soros groups and others are funding racial division, the Beyonce videos. This is clearly governmental, get Americans fighting with each other to distract them from black unemployment doubling under Obama. What would you, because we want to know, I mean, you've proven to be uncannily accurate, like you got a crystal ball. To make a statement like that, what's the calculus behind it? Saying it's a possibility. You're not saying martial law is coming. They'll say that now. What is the calculus behind it? And it isn't just Obama that could pull some stunts. What could they do? What, activate groups with the media to go out and burn down cities? I mean, what do you say? I mean, we've already heard people saying they're going to burn down cities and riot. Black Lives Matter if he gets elected.
I think that we understand the play here. The Clintonites are very concerned because Donald Trump has a very strong appeal to more than a third of the Bernie Sanders voters. These are blue-collar folks who have been left out by the New World Order economy. NAFTA and presumably TPP and TPA, which Ted Cruz supports, would destroy our economy, are destroying their jobs and livelihoods. So those voters are susceptible to Trump. Therefore, we invade his rallies and we brand him as a bigot and a racist and a misogynist in order to disqualify him from these voters who are probably slightly left of center. That's what they're afraid of. Now, Donald Trump is not going to get the hardcore leftists who are voting for Bernie. That's not what I'm saying. But his populist, blue-collar Democrat supporters who realize that these international trade deals are killing us, they are going to be available. And they like Trump's confidence in his nationalism. That's their concern. They must destroy Trump among those voters.
Last question, I got to go. Is the establishment out of bullets? I mean, I know they're going to try to bring up the mafia stuff as you predicted they did that. They bring up, oh, he hates Hillary. He said she'd be at 5% if she was a Republican nominee. It's true. Or, a man. What else are they going to cook up? I mean, I would expect some big fake scandal right before the convention so the Republicans can act like, well, we don't like to steal popular vote, but we're doing it for the right reason. I mean, are we going to hear that he had like a KKK baby that he gave birth to, or that he's an alien, or, I mean, what are we going to hear?
Look, I honestly think everything about Donald Trump is known. He is one of the most examined human beings on the planet. I think what happens here, though, is the mainstream media seeks to suppress the truth about Bill and Hillary Clinton. Their defense on the Clinton Foundation thievery. You have no proof. That's their defense. In other words, you can't prove it. I took $1 million and I gave the person who gave me the $1 million a multi-million-dollar federal contract the next day.
So the answer is get on the attack, attack Hillary.
Prove that those are related events.
So we should all be defending Trump instead of guessing what new attack will happen. The answer is ignore that, move forward with the attack on the true criminals of Benghazi, Fast and Furious, everything else.
You never win a campaign on defense. This has to be about Hillary. She will seek to make it about Trump. But Trump has the bully pulpit. You see, when a Steve Malzberg or a Kurt Schlichter, two friends of mine, conservative commentators, or when I go on CNN and you begin to talk about the facts regarding Hillary Clinton's abuse of women, they unplug your microphone. Now, they won't be able to unplug Donald Trump's microphone.
Good point. They're not going to be able to stop the signal, and he's willing to attack her. He has got complete huevos, and I am proud to be associated with this. This is history, And God bless you, Roger Stone. Look forward to speaking to you again next week. Anything you've got to add, any extra time, we'll tape it, whatever. Please continue to give us these amazing exclusives. StoneZone.com. And as you said, stopthesteal.org. This is history. Folks, you want to be part of it right now. I mean, undoubtedly, Roger, this is people's chance to really be part of 1776 Part 2.
Well, and we may have a surprise for Ted Cruz, who has been very actively, I think, out using the bosses to steal votes. I've been working with the Trump Ballot Security Project. We are documenting literally thousands of examples of voter irregularity in Oklahoma, in Utah, in Texas, and other states. Now, the Trump people or any delegate may elect to go to the Credentials Committee and seek the removal of Cruz delegates that were elected through fraud. So two can play this game. Exactly what happened in the 1952 election. So those who want to help that effort, go to Trump Ballot Security. You can read exactly what we're doing and why it is potentially and possibly very valuable to the Trump presidential prize.
We only got a minute left, but since you raised it, why don't you personally address Ted Cruz? I mean, he should have already dropped out. They admit that he can't win by their own rules now. He's a loser. He said Trump was a loser. Lion Ted's the loser. Roger Stone, 60 seconds, your address to the loser.
Yeah, very simple. He calls me a dirty trickster. It takes one to know one, but I'm not running for president. Thank you, Alex.
All right, Roger Stone, talk to you soon. God bless. Wow, that was a news-making interview. That's going to be all over the headlines tonight and tomorrow. Wow. I can only cherry on top that with a little clip of Trump in his victory speech last night. Let's just have this little maraschino cherry right on top, that big, delicious vanilla ice cream with chocolate sauce all over it. Let's just go ahead and play Trump talking about Hillary.
Well, I think the only card she has is the woman's card. She's got nothing else going. And frankly, if Hillary Clinton were a man, I don't think she'd get 5% of the vote. The only thing she's got going is the woman's card. And the beautiful thing is, women don't like her, okay? And look how well I did with women.
I'm sorry. The globalists think they're the only people that are humans and can fight. And they put us in a trance and TV and ESPN, and we're supposed to waddle around like Wally, you know, on the galactic, endless cruise ship here weighing 900 pounds spiritually. I'm not doing it. My shadow is not taller than my soul. And I am not going to be part of this, and history is happening. And I just love seeing these rats run like they've run so many times in history when the good people get off the bench and decide to stomp them into the collective ground. And supporting Trump doesn't offer some panacea or utopia. I want to be clear. I'm not some communist selling, blue sky here, pie in the sky. I'm selling the animating contest of liberty that you've got to decide to buy from yourself.